Fourth Doctor. Everyone remembers the scarf, the jelly babies, the grin, and the gothic horror atmosphere that defined the first three seasons of Tom Baker's tenure, and arguably Doctor Who's most beloved era. But when exactly did Tom Baker become the Fourth Doctor? You might say his debut story, Robot, or the iconic Genesis of the Daleks, or even Pyramids of Mars. But for me, it's Terror of the Zygons. The story, in many ways, reveals the finished article of the Fourth Doctor, while also marking the beginning of the show's journey into Gothic horror. So let's take a look at how Terror of the Zygons shaped the Fourth Doctor era. Before we delve into Terror of the Zygons, we need to go back to the beginning of the Fourth Doctor era, Season 12. The five stories that make up the season were largely commissioned by outgoing producer Barry Letts and script editor Terrence Dicks before their departure. Incoming producer Philip Hinchcliffe and script editor Robert Holmes inherited those scripts and began shaping them in line with the darker, more stylized direction they envisioned for the show. At the same time, Tom Baker was finding his feet in the role, and the plan from the outset was to move away from the largely earthbound format of the Third Doctor's era, where the Third Doctor was suave, authoritative, and grounded. The Fourth Doctor was eccentric, alien, and unpredictable, but that identity wasn't fully formed overnight. Season 12 became something of a proving ground, a season of exploration and experimentation, both for the production team and for Tom Baker's Doctor. Each story revealed a different facet of his emerging persona. With Robot, it's essentially a holdover from the Pertwee era, in tone and setting, but it immediately establishes the Fourth Doctor's offbeat nature, in his costume, his erratic behaviour, and his mercurial energy. The arc in space reveals his alien detachment and philosophical depth. His Homo sapiens speech becomes iconic, and we even see his capacity for empathy, even towards creatures like the Wirren, that's balanced with ruthless pragmatism. The Centauran experiment focuses on his physicality. Unlike the Third Doctor's disciplined Venetian Aikido, the Fourth feels more like a scrapper, scruffy, instinctive, and surprisingly resilient in combat. Genesis of the Daleks, often considered one of the greatest Doctor Who stories of all time, leans into his moral gravitas. We see the Doctor as a manipulator, a strategist, and a deeply conflicted hero, especially in his famous dilemma of whether to destroy the Daleks or not. And then there's Revenge of the Cybermen, which lightens up the tone once more, giving us a version of the Doctor who mocks and undermines his enemies, playing up his defiance and wit, even in the face of danger. So while Season 12 is brilliant in its own right, it also functions as a patchwork of character development. It showcases the range of Baker's Doctor, but we hadn't yet seen all those aspects unified with a single story, nor set against the kind of world Hinchcliffe and Holmes were striving to create. Terror of the Zygons kicked off Season 13, though it was originally intended to close out Season 12. The decision to delay its broadcast allowed the show to start airing in September as opposed to the established December-January slot, and as a result, the story was trimmed down from the planned 6 episodes to 4. For those unfamiliar, Terror of the Zygons picks up directly after Revenge of the Cybermen, with the Doctor receiving a message from the Brigadier. Arriving in present-day Scotland, the Doctor, Sarah, Harry and Unit are thrown into an investigation surrounding the destruction of several oil rigs, soon discovering that the legend of the Loch Ness Monster has a very real alien origin. The culprits, the shape-shifting Zygons, who plan to make Earth their new home world. The moment the Doctor returns to Earth, there's a noticeable shift in confidence and authority compared to his last encounter with Unit. He's fully formed now, not just eccentric and alien, but assured in his convictions. He immediately clashes with the Brigadier, accusing him of using oil as a false justification for summoning him back to Earth, echoing the confrontational tone of the Third Doctor, only to be reminded that human lives are at risk. There's this brooding mystery that lingers over the Doctor's early scenes. He suspects more than he lets on, keeping his thoughts guarded. He's musing that the sea's calm but never empty is both poetic and prescient, hinting at the lurking menace beneath the surface. As the story unfolds, the Doctor balances scientific deduction with instinct. The discovery of the bite marks on the wreckage and Harry's disappearance escalates the tension, and the Doctor begins to piece together the Zygons' involvement with a methodical precision. Like a Time Lord version of Sherlock Holmes, he follows every clue while remaining 2 steps ahead of everyone else. Once the hidden Zygons' plan becomes clear, the Doctor takes direct action. He volunteers to use a homing signal that had been planted on the oil rigs to lure the Scarrison, the so-called Loch Ness Monster, into the open, risking his life to expose the threat. Later, he even electrocutes himself to send a signal from the Zygon ship and give away their location. Throughout, we see all the essential qualities of the Fourth Doctor on display: the arrogance, the cleverness, the curiosity, the moral compass, and all above, the eccentric energy that only Tom Baker could deliver. He mocks Broton's plans with wit and flair, challenges the Zygon's assumptions about humanity, and ultimately defeats them through a mixture of intellect, improvisation, and sheer nerve. In short, Terror of the Zygons doesn't just showcase the Fourth Doctor, it cements him. It's the first story where all the previously established traits from Season 12 come together in harmony, framed within the moody, mysterious tone that would define the Hinchcliffe era going forward. The seeds of Gothic horror were sown during Season 12, but it's in Terror of the Zygons that those ideas fully bloom, setting the tone for what would become the defining atmosphere of the Hinchcliffe and Holmes era. Debut writer Robert Banks-Stewart draws deeply from his Scottish roots, using the moody Highlands and local mythology, particularly the legend of the Loch Ness Monster, to craft a story rich in tension and folklore. Though the Zygons are named in the title, they remain unseen and unexplained throughout much of Episode 1. Instead, their presence is felt. Oil rigs are mysteriously getting destroyed, people vanish on the moors, and a sense of unease settles over every scene. This suspense is expertly constructed. Angus, the landlord of the local pub, tells Sarah eerie tales of those who disappeared or went mad, tales that echo the best ever ghost stories. When Harry stumbles upon a Zygon off-screen, his visible terror speaks volumes. And the first cliffhanger with the Zygon attacking Sarah finally pulls back the curtain, and from that point, the horror truly begins. Doctor Who has long explained human myths throughout science fiction, and Terror of the Zygons is one of its strongest examples. The Loch Ness Monster, long a fixture of cryptozoological speculation, is revealed to be the Scarrison, a bioengineered creature that the Zygons brought to Earth as an embryo. It feeds them, protects them, and becomes their weapon of conquest. It's a brilliant twist of sci-fi and classic mystery. Beyond that, Terror of the Zygons leans heavily on the invasion of the Body Snatchers for inspiration. The Zygon's shape-shifting ability turns familiar faces into threats, and the show mines this for genuine horror. When the Zygon impersonates Harry, we're unnerved. His sudden aggression, the pitchfork attack, and the chilling moment of recognition from Sarah all hit hard because the threat is so personal. That scene, ending in the death of the imposter Harry, is one of the most emotionally charged in the episode. But it doesn't end there. Sister Lamont, the cold nurse we meet early on, is later revealed to be a Zygon. Her brutal murders, strangling Angus, bludgeoning a unit soldier, bring a level of violence that was uncommon for the show, but completely in step with the Gothic direction. These doppelgangers aren't just imposters, they're predators in plain sight, and their ability to imitate isn't flawless, which makes them even more dangerous. And while the Zygon's actual plan to terraform Earth and prepare it for a refugee fleet is a familiar one, it's largely irrelevant. What makes the story work isn't the grand alien scheme, but the mystery, the suspense, and the horror. Banks-Stewart employs a Hitchcockian approach with a MacGuffin structure. The plot keeps moving, but it's the eerie atmosphere that holds our attention. Douglas Camfield, one of Doctor Who's most renowned directors, makes his return to the show after a 5-year absence with Terror of the Zygons, and he adopts a less is more approach to suit the story's mysterious horror vibes. The Zygons are gradually introduced, first glimpsed through eyes, hands, and distorted voices, and their shape-shifting is only revealed after we already meet one of the humans they impersonate. This careful withholding increases suspense and reinforces the creeping tension threaded through the story. Although set in the Scottish Highlands, the location filming actually took place in West Sussex. Despite the geographical swap, Canfield's direction, combined with overcast skies, moorland paths, and clever framing, convincingly sells the illusion of a rural Scottish setting. This not only adds to authenticity to the narrative, but heightens the gothic mood the production was leaning into. But perhaps most impressively is how he exposes the appearance of the Scarison. We never see it attack the rigs, just the destruction it leaves behind. We get brief glimpses via the Zygon monitor, and when it actually pursues the Doctor across the moor. While this enhances the suspense, there's also a practical reason for the restraint. The Scarison's realization, given the available budget and effects of the time, is limited, to put it politely. This becomes especially clear in the finale when the Doctor prevents it from attacking a London building. The limited special effects were cleverly masked by Canfield's restraint, something that had been sorely missed from early overexposed monsters like the dinosaurs in Invasion of the Dinosaurs. In short, Terror of the Zygons is where Gothic vision of Doctor Who becomes fully realised, rich in mystery, steeped in folklore, and laced with horror. It's a story about monsters, yes, but more importantly, it's about fear, identity, and the unknown. And from here on, Doctor Who would never quite be the same. Terror of the Zygons is rightly remembered as a standout story in Doctor Who folklore. It's well written, expertly directed, and confidently acted, not only by the regular cast, but also by a strong supporting ensemble. Most importantly, it succeeds in its fundamental aim, to entertain through mystery, tension, and horror. With this story, the Gothic horror era had well and truly begun. The tonal and stylistic blueprint forged here would define the rest of the Hinchcliffe-Holmes era. Over the next 2 seasons, Doctor Who would draw inspiration from Frankenstein, The Day of the Triffids, The Phantom of the Opera, Sherlock Holmes, and Fu Manchu, not to mention ancient mythologies, occult lore, and cosmic terror. All of it would be layered with atmosphere, fear, and the occasional shocking moment of violence. It worked. Doctor Who had never felt more adult, daring, or inventive. Of course, it wouldn't last forever. The backlash, most notably from Mary Whitehouse and her campaign for family-friendly broadcasting, eventually forced the show to scale back the horror. But the influence of the Hinchcliffe-Holmes era, and Terror of the Zygons in particular, has echoed ever since. Gothic horror has never fully left Doctor Who, and continues to resurface across the classic and modern eras alike. Season 13 became a kind of litmus test in how far Doctor Who could push into darker, more mature storytelling, and Terror of the Zygons was the match that lit the fuse. No, it might not be the greatest story of all time, or even the best of its season, but it was the spark that ignited one of the show's most successful and celebrated periods. But as much as Terror of the Zygons opened one door, it also closed another. UNIT, ever present since 1968, was gradually being phased out. The Doctor was no longer earthbound, and the narrative reliance on UNIT was diminishing even before John Pertwee's departure. Terror of the Zygons marks the Brigadier's final regular appearance in the classic series, save for a few welcome returns in the 1980s. Though UNIT would still appear in the Android Invasion and the Seeds of Doom, their role was notably reduced, and the absence of the Brigadier only highlighted that transition. This was also the departure of Harry Sullivan, aside from one brief return. Originally conceived as a man of action to balance out a planned older Fourth Doctor, Harry's role had been reassessed when Tom Baker was cast. Though often the butt of Doctor's jibes, Harry was an entertaining, brave and resourceful companion whose time on the TARDIS had simply run its course. While Harry's exit marked the end of a short-lived but enjoyable trio, his departure also brought renewed focus to one of the show's most beloved duos, the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith. With Harry gone, the dynamic between the Doctor and Sarah was given more space to shine, highlighting their chemistry, humour, and mutual trust. Their partnership would go on to define much of the emotional heart of the following season, and remains one of Doctor Who's most iconic companion relationships in the show's history. And while the Zygons disappeared from Doctor Who for decades, their legacy endured. Their unsettling design and sinister shape-shifting concept proved so memorable that they were eventually brought back in 2013's The Day of the Doctor, as part of the show's 50th anniversary special. There, they were introduced to a new generation of fans, a testament to the lasting impact Terror of the Zygons had on the show's mythology. In the end, Terror of the Zygons stands at a unique crossroads in Doctor Who's history, an end and a beginning. It marks the virtual final bow of the unit family, while lighting the way for a new era of storytelling that would take Doctor Who into darker, bolder, and more ambitious territory. But what do you make of Terror of the Zygons? Is it as significant as I've made it out to be, or has its influence been overstated? Am I just overloving the story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But for now, it's the end, but the moment has been prepared for.